Yeah, Dutch, you're not wearing your special webinar shirt today. I remember you said to Kate you were going to just pick that up now.
Yes, well, for those of you who have noticed I'm wearing a different shirt to my usual today. We can thank Kate Jolly for that. She seemed to take objection to my previous. I guess on that note, we should kick off. There's a few people joining. That's fantastic. Still joining. Actually, might just wait one more moment. But yeah, thank you very much, Kate, for my beautiful new T-shirt.
Going to add Employment Heroes styling services to my resume.
All right. Well, I think we've set the thematic for this conversation. All right. And with that, I think we'll kick off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again. This is the fourth in our series. For those of you who don't already know, I'm Dutchy. I'm the Managing Director of Swag at Employment Hero. And I'm delighted, as usual, to be joined by two of my colleagues. First up, Guy Abelson, who, of course, you met on Tuesday. For those of you who joined us, Guy, do you want to just give a very brief background?
Sure, thanks, Dutchy. Really excited to be able to be here today to walk everybody through our applicant tracking system and recruitment module. My name is Guy. I'm a product manager at Employment Hero working on SmartMatch and the ATS. And prior to this, have a background across recruitment, previously co-founding a business doing digital interviewing called My Interview. So yeah, really have a big passion for the space and great to be here.
Fantastic. And have made a huge difference in the 7 months you've been with us. And of course, first time on this series, but for those of you who've watched these webinars before, you'll be familiar with Kate. Hello, Kate. Kate is our head of talent.
Hi, yeah, so I head up our talent acquisition function. I've been in recruitment for about 10 years now. I started over in the UK, working in agencies, and then moved across to Australia, and have been working in-house for the last few years. I know a few different markets really well. So we hire throughout the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia primarily, but we are also open to global applicants. So we've also hired in some other markets as well. And yeah, really excited to be sharing a bit more about our applicant tracking system today, because for me, an ATS is just such a mission critical tool for everyone out there that's running recruitment, whether they're a talent acquisition professional or maybe a HR manager or maybe even a hiring manager.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And just for reference, how big is your team now?
Oh gosh, we've got probably about 18 people at the moment, split across all regions.
Yeah, so we're very grateful to have that team. They do a fantastic job, and they also provide some fantastic input to the tools that we've developed over the last 10 years and that you'll see today. So as usual, you know the drill by now. Questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom. We will try and address as many of them as possible through the call at the end of the call. And for those that we can't address live, we will follow up with in the follow-up emails. In the first few episodes, we have been focused on so far attracting and engaging the right people through benefits and rewards and alignment and goal settings. Then we looked a little bit on Tuesday this week at SmartMatch. Today, we're going to dive deeper into the recruitment process and look really thoroughly and deeply at the process and how we can try and help that not only be easier, but also more effective outcomes. So today, we'll be starting off perhaps with Kate. And Kate, we do know that people are desperate to see the demos, but I think it's important that we provide a little bit of context here. Sorry, the poll first. I nearly forgot the poll, so apologies for that. We do like to get a little bit of a sense about how the audience manage the topics that we're about to talk about. 2 questions today. How do you currently manage your recruitment processes? And on average, how long does it take to hire a new team member? Kate, in terms of overall headline benchmarks for time to hire, not talking about Employment Hero, but perhaps our Australian client base generally, have you got any views on what sort of industry average is?
Yeah, it varies a lot depending on the nature of the role, but I think for more junior positions, 4 to 5 weeks as a minimum is quite common. And if you're recruiting for more of a technical position like software engineers or another type of engineering role, can be much, much longer than that, I'm afraid. We're talking several months.
Yeah. And Guy, in terms of the big data point for the 2 million roles on our platform, is it 43, 44 days, I think is the data average?
Correct. Yeah, that's right. We do see about 43 days the average time to hire across our customer base.
All right, with that, let's have a look at the results and see what our audience has. So people are using job boards, so that's fantastic. That's going to be very relevant. Recruitment and Employment Hero, and perhaps that will overlap with job boards through our ATS. So that's good to see. Manual spreadsheets, phone calls, paper CVs. Well, we've got to help those people. And an external applicant tracking system. Fantastic. Okay. And then in terms of on average, yeah, not surprising, actually almost identical results to Tuesday, 2 to 4 weeks and then 4+ weeks, which kind of gels in there. Perhaps people are a little bit faster than the averages we see across the platform. All right, so with that, we're going to kick off. Before we jump into the demo, let's start with you, Kate. We get a lot of questions about recruitment through the platform, and recruitment means different things to different people. But can we just start with, you know, manual processes versus an ATS? Why would I move from my paper CVs onto a digital process, digital ATS?
Yeah, I could talk about this for a long time, but I'll be succinct because I think there is about 9%, if I remember correctly, that said that they weren't. So there are some really great benefits for both you and also for the candidates that you're interacting with. So firstly, if you're not using an applicant tracking system, but you want to get candidates from multiple sources, so for example, maybe you've got several different job boards like Seek and another, or maybe you've got a combination of job boards and referrals from your existing team members, managing those multiple sources is incredibly time consuming and really difficult to keep track of if you do not have an applicant tracking system. If you have an ATS, you can view all of your candidates in one place. You can also manage multiple job postings in one place. So for example, when you fill the role, you do not have to log into several different job posting platforms to close all of those roles down. You can do it via one click in the applicant tracking system. So it just saves a huge amount of time and really streamlines that whole process. Secondly, I spoke just then about referrals, and they are notoriously difficult to keep track of. If you have some people sending them via Slack, maybe some people are sending them via email and so on. So a good ATS will let your employees view all of your open vacancies, upload their referrals, and then also as a benefit, they can potentially apply for internal opportunities that are of interest as well. Thirdly, an applicant tracking system should let you build a customized pipeline for every role and to manage every candidate through that pipeline really effectively. I would think of it a little bit like a project management tool, but for recruitment. And that's really amazing for making sure that you update all of your active candidates. So for example, maybe declining them if they've been unsuccessful, or getting their feedback as soon as an interview's finished so that you can keep tabs on them. And also really important as well for maintaining a really well-structured an objective process, which results in the best possible quality of hire. So you make sure that every candidate goes through the exact same process, they're assessed against the same criteria, and it's fair and objective. I would also add that on the candidate experience side of things, an ATS will much better enable you to give a really great candidate experience. So most applicant tracking systems will include the option to set up notifications if you haven't replied to a new applicant yet, which is really useful, or if you haven't reached out to a candidate following an interview. Those notifications really help you stay on track, particularly if you're juggling quite a high number of roles, or maybe if you're not purely a dedicated recruiter and you're also tackling some broader HR or people and culture initiatives.
Yeah, and Kate, the candidate experience is so important, isn't it? I think what people sometimes forget is that the candidates who might come second or third in this particular time round, that you want to have a good relationship with them, and communicating with them and giving them feedback, letting them know the state of the process, so important in building that pipeline, right?
100%. Yeah, we have a lot of boomerangs, you might call them. So people that maybe we've interviewed for one role, they weren't quite the right fit, but maybe they're a close runner-up, but then something else cropped up that they were suitable for and we could really quickly re-engage. Super easy to keep track of that via an applicant tracking system and not to lose that candidate's data and their contact details. Also, depending on, I suppose, the nature of the roles you're hiring for and the industry that you're in, those people could one day be customers. So if you give them a really poor experience, you've got to really think about the commercial impact on your business as well. So yeah, plenty of reasons why you should be really considering your candidate experience and taking the first few steps forward to make it as positive as possible. And hands down, the easiest way to do that is via an ATS.
Yeah, and you touched a little bit on the impact on your team, on your own recruitment, your own teams. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit further?
Yeah, certainly. So firstly, I think the main thing for me with the size of business we are and the amount of recruitment that we do, it allows my team to be much more productive. So they can actually work on a higher number of roles per talent acquisition specialist, while still ensuring that they're running a really good process. The reasoning for this is, as we just talked about, the ATS can automate a lot of those really manual tasks. So they spend more time on high value activities is what I would call them. So things like actually interviewing candidates, or maybe working with hiring managers to help design their interview scorecards or testing processes, whatever else it might be. Secondly, it allows us to keep track of every single candidate's experience. So we can see in our ATS which candidates have applied, who's heard back from us, and who might still be waiting for an update. This means that even if a recruiter, let's say, goes, I don't know, on leave at short notice, maybe they're unwell or something for several days, someone else can jump in and effectively pick up their pipeline on their behalf and make sure that we stay on top of it. Again, I spoke about this earlier, but almost a little bit like a project management tool, but for your recruitment pipelines. Transparently, it also means we can see if we've ever missed the mark, and we'll regularly look at that and review it as well. You know, if we did take too long to get back to a candidate, or did take a little bit too long to schedule that next interview, it really keeps us accountable. We can go back and see what happened, reflect, learn from it, try and improve for it the next time. So really helps us to continually improve that. And finally, the other big benefit, I think, for us at EH is that it allows us to showcase all of our open internal roles to staff. So again, either they can refer a candidate, we get some really fantastic referrals, or so that they can apply themselves if they'd like to. We have had a lot of internal mobility at EH over the last 4.5 years I've been here, and some of our best candidates have been people who've moved internally.
Yeah, I think internal retention, internal mobility, internal professional development, really our Employment Hero employment operating system is designed to try and maximize that, because losing good staff because you don't help develop them and promote them and give them the opportunities they will. So it's absolutely critical. And finally, even for those people on the call who may have set up their ATS, and certainly for those people who are thinking about doing it, what are some of the most important features? What should I be thinking about as I set up my ATS? What are the things I need to be aware of?
Yeah, the biggest one for me is email templates, because it allows you to give a hyper efficient but still really positive candidate experience. So rather than always typing up an email on the fly, if someone asks a question or if you want to schedule an interview, whatever it might be, you have got the time to think really carefully about how you want to word something, maybe like a rejection email that I think ought to be considered and ought to have some thought behind it. Have a template set up, ready to be customized if it needs to be, but really quickly, or, you know, can be used en masse if it's appropriate for mass mailing a number of individuals at the same time. Saves a huge amount of time, but again, lets you be really considered about your comms to candidates and just thoughtful, I suppose, about the person on the receiving end. The second thing would be application questions. So really useful for getting candidates to confirm any critical information that isn't always included in their CV. It might be asking them for confirmation of working rights, location, or maybe, you know, confirming that they hold a certain qualification or certification, like a working with children certificate or whatever.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. And the careers page, I think we might come on to that. So a couple of things to take away here. Hi, Susan, welcome back. Thanks again for your many questions. They're brilliant. I would ask you all to try and ask as many questions as possible. Guy, we want to do a bit of a focus on automations, how we can automate things, and templates is the other thematic I can see coming through. But for now, Kate, thank you. I'll probably draw you back in as we walk through some of the features and get your views. But with that, Guy, I think, as usual, the expectation is high for our demo. I'll hand over to you. And please keep the questions coming in. We will try and answer as many as possible, but they're really helpful in guiding our conversation. Guy?
Thank you, Dachi. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen, everybody, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive through our Employment Hero recruitment settings and ATS today.
Guy, one thing I'll just say up front is if you haven't used the ATS for a while, and in our language, that's just a couple of months, the rate at which we deploy, which I think we touched on in episode 1, I forget, it was 900 deployments we made in the last 12 months. So it is worth these kind of sessions, and we'll run more of them. We'll talk about that at the end. The product is moving so quickly, right? You need to keep checking in.
It is, yeah. And I think that's why we want to spend a bit of time today just to walk people through what's potentially changed, some new features that we have. We've also have a really exciting roadmap coming, but it's a great opportunity for you to kind of get up to speed on what's happening today. And this is why I'm also really excited to be able to kind of present the recruitment settings. So what we're going to run through today is just a bit of a deep dive as to how do you set yourself up for success. We heard from Kate before about, why an ATS can be really great for an organization, how it kind of gives you a bit of structure and also allows you to provide that best type of candidate experience, but also that hiring experience internally. And we want to spend a bit of time just guiding you through how do you set yourself up for success. And then we can go through and look at, for example, how do we actually use the ATS and how do we manage, candidates that have come through, for example, and how do we then start to contact and, get them hired. So you would have seen our new menu bar has just been released in the last 10 days, so it's slightly changed. But if you all log into your Employment Hero instance with me, we can do this together. You can click on settings on the left. Well, then you're going to scroll down and have a look at recruitment settings. And within recruitment settings, the one thing that's really important to kind of understand is there's quite a lot of customization that you have at your fingertips within Employment Hero. And this can be things like, for example, the types of experience levels that your business is looking to hire for. And why this is important is this kind of surfaces and signals to the candidate through kind of your careers page or the kind of jobs board, what level for that role you're looking for. And it is customizable. Additionally, as well, we know that there's a lot of different sources of where candidates are coming through these days. So you have obviously your conventional job boards. We'll walk you through that in a moment. But we know there's other channels that you might want to add candidates into your ATS manually. And you can also update those candidate sources as well to reflect that. So we have, for example, manual entry
walk through
referrals.
that, Guy, because there's a specific question from Jody about that. Will you show how to add in referred candidates, for example?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. Yeah, we'll dive into that today. On top of that as well, there's also disqualification reasons. I think this is quite important to understand, especially for a recruiting reporting perspective, but also be able to understand, like, if somebody is disqualified for a role internally, how do you track this? So you can actually understand, okay, maybe also salary expectations about that candidate, maybe they lack the relevant skills and qualifications, but I think it provides like quite a high level of visibility. And Kate might kind of jump in here potentially, but providing this transparency is really important to understand as to why you might have proceeded with a candidate or why you might have rejected with a candidate internally. So we have like a number of reasons that are kind of preloaded, and you can also update this as well.
Yeah, I think if you're in HR or in recruitment and you're partnering with a hiring manager, it's always best to go to them with data to show, if you're struggling to fill a role or if you're really struggling to find that perfect candidate, having some data to back up maybe what the issue is. And if you can see, for example, that 99% of the applicants that you received had salary expectations that weren't aligned, it might be worth then taking that to the hiring manager, going back to the drawing board and going, okay, are we flexible on budget, or should we perhaps flex maybe on the level of experience we're looking for the budget that we've got? So I would say it just really helps to inform those conversations and make them much more valuable.
And also for the recycle candidates, I forgot what you referred to them as before. It's good to see when they reply again. If it was a cultural fit, you may not want to consider them. If it was they didn't have the right skill set and they're applying for a different role, you can jump straight back in. Over to you, Guy. Back to you.
Yeah, definitely with those boomerang candidates, I think that's a great idea. Now, what we're going to jump into next is from an attraction piece. Recruitment settings also gives you the capability to turn on your careers page. And every Employment Hero customer, you actually have your own ability to publish a careers page and customize this. And this can be really important for a few reasons. One, in terms of attracting talent, trying to explain your business's value proposition, your company values, a bit about your story, your mission and objectives. We know those are really important things to focus on when you're trying to attract candidates. And within our careers page section within recruitment settings, you can, for example, set up templates within here. We've got a number of ones that you can log in and select if you want to, for example, change color schemes, upload images, import company videos. And it just means you can kind of make it feel like your website, make it feel like your brand. And candidates really appreciate that when it's an extension of your website or whether it's an extension of your brand. And a really great example of this is like one of our customers, Oz Harvest, where it feels very similar to kind of Oz Harvest's styling. They've got a welcome video from Ronnie Khan here, for example, as well. You can also learn a bit more about their people, why people are proud to work at that business. And it kind of just gives you a great sense as to what that business is about, their culture, their values, as I touched on earlier. And then, of course, you can mention the jobs that they have. So I definitely would recommend for all of you that have access to your settings, jump in here a bit after. You can start to customize and tailor this. And if you have any questions, we've got like some great support articles on how you can kind of, theme this.
Terrific, Guy. I might get you just to go back and just re-click through that so people can follow. But Kate, in terms of employee value proposition, in terms of employees, candidates, understanding why they should come and work for you, careers page is one of those really simple steps, right?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't actually style our careers page. It was Diane and Celia. I might be the fashion stylist, but they were the careers page stylists from my team. But I know that we had a lot of good discussion around what we really wanted to showcase. And we actually update as relatively regularly, maybe every 3 to 6 months, because it's just so quick to change. We might add some new stats about what we've achieved recently. If you know you've recently got, I don't know, an award for best place to work or whatever it might be, it's really quick to add those things in. So any awards, size of company, any great growth trajectory that you want to share, that's all really good stuff, as well as like maybe your values and a bit more about your internal philosophy.
Yeah. Or you can keep it really simple, Guy. Do you want to just touch on a few? So it's under the settings, recruitment settings, careers page.
Careers page. Yeah, correct. So we've got like one that's out of the box that's ready to go for you. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see, you know, what you can kind of turn on and turn off. You don't have to kind of, you know, go to that full extent and brand it, but it's up to you. So you can kind of, you know, spend 20 minutes potentially probably customizing this, and then scrolling down you can preview the page and then click publish. So I definitely would recommend a lot of customers to do this.
And it isn't difficult, is it? I mean, I've played with it in a demo account. You can drag and drop some pictures, you can preview it, you can realize that you made a mistake or don't like something and move it around.
Exactly right. I mean, that's the whole beauty of it, right? You can choose the different layouts you want to have, for example, edit certain titles that you have, and you can always preview it. And I think that's what's really nice is we've got this kind of built-in preview section where you can kind of preview what the careers page is going to look like before you publish it. And then you can come back here and edit anything as well. The best thing I recommend to do is generally when you click on import template, you'll be able to see, for example, 2 types of templates we have for your careers page. As an example, it just makes it so much easier to kind of just get started.
Yeah. And my final thought here is, of course, just let everyone know the jobs that you post, if you're posting them using the ATS, they automatically update, don't they? You don't have to keep posting those manually. So the update
Correct.
that we're talking about would be things like, I've got an award, we've introduced some values, we've had a great employee event, and we want to share some photos. Yeah.
That's
exactly right.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right,
Okay.
back to you guys.
So next thing we're going to touch on is a couple of things just around kind of how do you handle communications to candidates and how do you set up evaluations. So we also have access to email templates that have come through. Email templates is a really great way to kind of set up the standardized way you want to probably communicate with candidates, for example. And this could be around when a candidate's applied and you want to send them a message to advise them, for example, that you're reviewing their profile. You could have set up another one for phone screens, or if you want to disqualify a candidate. And it's really straightforward. You can click on add a template, type in the template name, type in the subject. We also have this new little AI powered wizard, which some of you might not have seen, but you can type in any message you want to, click that, and then we'll just enhance it a little bit. So we'll kind of just clean up the text, make it sound a bit more professional potentially as well for you, and just improve the kind of general context. We have a number of examples we've set up today, and this could be, if you want to disqualify a candidate before an interview, and obviously this does happen a lot during the recruitment process. And in this example here, you can also choose, for example, the different candidate fields that you want, so it can still feel really personalized. And I think that's important. Kate touched on before that kind of candidate experience. There's this blend between, do you over-index and write a personalized message every single time, or can you make it feel personalized, but allow your team to kind of automate their capability? And that's where I think a combination of being able to input the candidate first name tags, the job title, and who it came from, the actual person or recruiter in that business, makes it feel a bit more personalized when you're sending stuff out to candidates as well. The next section that we'll kind of probably focus on is evaluation templates. We know this is probably really important for a lot of different customers, the way that you start to evaluate candidates. And this could be for a phone screen, or it could be a final round in-person interview. We've got a similar process where you can set up the template, type in, for example, the questions, and on top of that as well, you can choose to use the kind of AI-powered wizard if you want to re-enhance it. 2 examples we have here, for example, are a phone screen. So you can see we've got a couple of questions that we'd like our recruitment teams to ask during the phone screen. And it just means that, if you're an HR admin, you can just set up this structure for your team and everybody can kind of use these templates. So people don't have to kind of make up questions on the fly. They could have a standardized process, which I think is quite important across recruitment. It affords every candidate the same opportunity to present their best foot forward by answering the same set of questions. And it also means when you're comparing candidates across different people who've been involved in that hiring process, you can all see they've got a common set of questions that they're responding to, whether that's a phone screen or whether that's an in-person interview or like a virtual interview as well. On top of that, we then have something called screening questions. And screening questions are when the applicant applies for the job. So this is built into when an applicant clicks on apply on your careers page, for example, as part of their application process, they will go through and complete screening questions. And this just helps to really clarify certain role requirements that you have. And if we look at, for example, like a simple one, it might just be, do you have the right to work in Australia? Are you eligible? And what we can do is request the candidate when they apply to kind of tick yes or no. We can also have it set as a preferred answer, which can be really important. And a preferred answer means we can kind of score the candidate slightly higher. We know this is very kind of important for a lot of different industries that we have like the right type of opportunity to work in Australia. We also have this ability to have something called auto disqualification. So if somebody doesn't have the right to work in Australia, you could turn on, for example, auto disqualification. And it just means that if they don't match the answer, they'll get automatically moved across into our disqualified bucket for you as well. You can choose a different types of responses as well. So you can choose if it's a short answer, a long answer, it could be a date. And a date might be, could you let us know what date you could start? Especially if you can imagine like kind of Christmas, New Year hiring. This was a very common one. A lot of our customers were asking, what is the earliest date they could start? Please select the date. And if they couldn't start, for example, before, the first week of December, potentially, they might get not a preferred answer or potentially auto disqualified to say, like, unfortunately, you haven't met the requirements for, our Christmas hiring campaign. You can also choose numbers, multiple choice. So it's very, very flexible. We are going to add in templates into this in the future, just to let you know. So we'll have a whole variety of templates based on the job titles that you're going to be inputting. That's planned for something that's going to be coming out next year.
Okay, let's just pause there for a moment because we did get a lot of questions about both the evaluation templates and the screening question templates. I think it's worth pointing out in terms of setting them up as to where these inject into the processes. Are we going to talk about customizing hiring? Okay, so we'll move on to that. But just for those people who've been asking about the evaluation templates and screening questions, the last 5 minutes hopefully have answered some of those questions. If not, throw in more specific questions to the Q&A and we'll try and answer them.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Somebody asked a question around screening templates and how do they interact with job boards. So we'll touch on that a bit later. But the high level is if you're connecting for a job board like Seek, as part of that ability to post to Seek, we have a pop-up that appears where you can utilize Seek's screening questions, for example, for Seek. And that'll be for other types of job boards as well. So we can touch on that a bit later. And we have a knowledge-based article that we can send out to Max who asked that question a bit later today if he wants as well. The next thing that we'll kind of move across to is candidate tags. This is just a very quick way if you want to, for example, tag a candidate to understand and completely customize your process. It could be culture fit. It could be re-review that you want to tag it for. And I might throw it to Kate to see like how do you and the team actually use tags and where's it been useful?
Yeah, so it could be, let's say, for example, we hire for SDRs and account executives. So an SDR role is slightly more entry level typically for sales, and then an account executive will be a more senior sales role. We might get some candidates that apply for the more senior position, an AE, but they're actually much better suited to an SDR position. And we can tag them with SDR and then talent pool and go back and look through those candidates next time we're hiring for an SDR, reach out to those people and say, hey, you applied for an account executive role, 6 months ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite the right fit, but we think you'd be amazing for an SDR. Would that be of interest? So you can use it for sort of keeping good pipelines. I know that some people in the team also use it for tagging if a candidate's reached a certain stage in the process. So it might be hashtag final interview, because as we talked about earlier, Dutchy, you've got plenty of fantastic candidates that get to final round, but you can only pick one. And so then you've got maybe 4 or 5 other people that are fantastic. And it's great to have it lodged in your ATS somewhere that person was a finalist. So the next time a role comes up, you can maybe just filter by people that got to final stage.
Yeah, great point. And Guy, there's a question coming from Nick. Great question. Is it possible to bulk email candidates based on a candidate tag?
Yeah, it's a great question. We can't bulk email based on a candidate tag at the moment, but I can walk you through how you can bulk email a bit later in the product as well.
And we'll take that into the roadmap.
Yes. One question I'll just touch on quickly. I did see a few people ask, how do people view this careers page? So we provide a URL for your careers page when you actually publish it. And you could link that out from your own careers website. So you might have a website, for example, you might have a career section. You click on careers as a candidate, and then it could take you through to, for example, this one like for Oz Harvest for context. Also, if any candidate comes through to kind of like Swag Jobs and they click onto that business, they'll be able to see the actual customized careers page as well. So I hope that answers a few of those questions that came through.
Yeah,
Next,
I might just add that there's a couple of people asking, saying they can't see it. Is it based on plans? Every plan, standard, premium, and platinum, has access to candidate pools and some existing tags. Custom tags, custom candidate tags, I think is only a platinum feature.
correct.
So all of this functionality exists other than the customization of tags. That is a
Correct.
platinum feature.
Correct. Yeah. Next, we're going to actually jump into the recruitment module. So if everybody follows with me, we're going to select recruitment on the top left and then jump into recruitment. And what we're going to walk through now is a couple things. First, we're going to talk about hiring processes. Kate kind of touched on this before, but what's really important for hiring processes is how do you set up the structure of how your business wants to hire? And I think that is kind of fundamental. It's instead of having to use spreadsheets and trying to manage things in different platforms, the real beauty of an applicant tracking system is you can just have almost these little buckets. And that's how we view a hiring stage. So if we take a simple retail example for context, it might be something like this. New is where any new applicants that apply for your job would get bucketed into. You might have the next step will be, we're going to move a candidate to a phone interview. So the hiring stage, we'll call it, will be phone interview. After that, you might move the candidate straight to a trial phase. And then after that, you might move the candidate to like an offered phase. So it's really straightforward. It's simple. And what Employment Heroes hiring processes allows you to do is set up as many as you want to. If you've got different types of roles, for example, like if your retail corporate head office might have a type of roles versus your actual retail shops, that's what we've seen is quite popular. And you can set a default hiring stage. So every job that you create in your business will use this hiring stage, or you could allow the recruiter or the admin to change the hiring process based on the type of job. Another example that we might look at is like a comprehensive tech example, which Kate touched on before. And this is like, why could that hiring process be quite long? So imagine you've got slightly different, you've got more stages involved. For example, when you have a technical interview, a technical assessment, you then might have a panel interview, and then on top of that, a kind of cultural fit interview, and then a background check. So again, you can kind of customize this to what your hiring process is like. You can use our one out of the box, and you can edit this as you see fit. If you want to make it default, you can literally flick the tag across and that'll become your kind of default hiring process for every job that you select as well. The next thing we're going to kind of walk on, and I think this is kind of really important, is job boards. There's been a few questions before about job boards, and kind of Kate touched on this, and what is the value of an ATS? So you imagine you source candidates through lots of different types of job boards. And the usual approach would be you go to each job board yourself, you create your job, and then your applications are managed on each job board, maybe emailed to you. The value of having like an Employment Hero applicant tracking system is from our product, you can connect to a whole variety of job boards within one click. And it means all of the candidate applications are funneled back into the actual Employment Hero ATS, into that new column, for example. So it means you have one place, one source of truth where you can manage where your jobs get distributed from, and one place where you can manage all your applications. And the time saving of just having literally one click to view new applications is significant. We've seen just teams not have to worry about so much clicking into 5 or 6 different job boards to try and understand where their candidates are coming from. It also means you have a much better opportunity to provide a good candidate experience, a faster time to hire, because there's one place for you to review candidates and 1 or 2 clicks to be able to push a candidate forward. So candidates aren't getting missed and lost in other job boards.
May I add as well, Guy?
Sure, go for it.
Really good for tracking actually what's successful. So if let's say you've just joined a new business, you've just started using an ATS, you're using several different job boards, paying for a bunch of different ones to try and see what works. By having all of the applicants come through to one place and being able to see the source, you can really quickly get a read on actually the candidates who are most suited, which platform are they coming from? And therefore, do I actually need to invest in the others moving forward?
Right.
Yep.
I think just while we're on the topic of investment, this is an Australian-focused audience. But if you're an Australian, New Zealand business and you're using a third-party job board and you're not using Seek, then you're missing out. I think just from a pure practical perspective, we get data on thousands of hires every month. We can see where the successful applicants come from. If you're limited on time and funds and you're not using Seek, then I suggest you switch. It is a little bit fiddly to connect that first time, isn't it, Guy? I mean, like, just the reality, you've got your Seek account, you've got to get that connected. it's probably an investment of under an hour. It's 100% worth. All right, you can try.
Yes.
It's that higher ID that you've got to go and get from Seek.
Yes.
But
And
yeah,
we do have a guide. So I think, it should be pretty straightforward. Any job board you see here, want to connect to, as Dutchy says, say, for example, it's Seek. If you click onto the guide, you'll be able to be walked through, and you can also reach out to our team if you need any help, or like your Seek account manager to kind of get any guidance on it. But it's a one-click setup, which is the beauty of it. And then obviously for each job, you choose whether you want to kind of enable it or not as well.
Yeah. But just if you are looking at expanding your recruitment options and you're not using Seek in Australia, New Zealand, you should be. So that's probably the key takeaway there.
Yeah, definitely. I also saw a couple of questions came through that someone said about if they're using kind of job slots on LinkedIn. So we do also have that kind of connection piece here for premium job slots. So hopefully that answers that person's question as well. We are also looking at, a few other job boards that we have access to down the bottom here. So obviously you get access to Swag, our kind of own job board, as part of your kind of careers page, and then you can connect to a few other free job boards as well. So definitely would recommend, if you're using these separately and not integrated at the moment, spend a bit of time today, get them connected. It'll massively improve your recruitment process. And as Dutchy said, if you're looking to utilize other job boards, check out Seek as an example. The next thing we're going to do is actually go and set up a job. So imagine we've set up our hiring process, we customize our email templates, we also then set up our evaluation templates. We're now ready to start recruiting. That's where the fun begins. I think Kate would agree. So inside the employment hero interface here, we can click on add a new job, and there's a few options that you can do. So one thing new we brought out was a functionality called create internal role. We do know that for some roles that you're hiring, you only want to advertise them internally. And I think Kate and Dutchy had a great discussion earlier. You would have heard about kind of internal mobility and retaining staff. For today's purposes, we're going to create a new job as if it was going to be advertised externally. And when you add a new job, a new thing that we brought out as well recently is, rather than just having to create a job from scratch, if you're hiring for the same type of role, we see this across retail, we see this across types of sales, from like an SDR perspective, you could literally use a previous job that you've used and it'll pre-fill all the information for you just to make life a bit easier. On top of that, if you've trying to hire like the same type of employee, someone who was an SDR, and you want to kind of pick them from a list, you can click create from employee, and it'll create the job listing based off that kind of employee information as well, just to kind of help speed things along. We'll create it from scratch, and we can type in the type of role we're looking for today, which might be a business development representative. We do have this kind of automated list where it'll start to allow you to select, what the job title is. You could type in, for example, the industry if relevant, the team, if you've got like a certain team set up in the business you want to have visibility to, and also things like just setting up the country, for example, and setting up the city. So we'll say Sydney. All this information is really important because it publishes to your careers page, as we touched on before, and also publishes out to the job board. So a lot of this information is required from the job board just to understand the type of role, when they're working, that experience level we touched on before, how many roles are you hiring for, and then the workplace type, if it's remote, hybrid, or on-site. One thing we have as well is we've got the ability to have templated job descriptions for you. So you would have seen this automatically populated. You can edit this, and you could talk a bit more about your kind of company culture, values, other types of responsibilities and qualifications. And you can also use our AI-powered generate job description tool as well. So this is a new functionality that we've released in the last, probably, I think it's like 6-7 months. And it just tries to help you not having to think, what am I going to write for this job description every single time? And we just want to make life a little bit easier for you. On top of that, you can also type in the actual salary range. So it could be like a yearly salary. So maybe it's, 80,000 to 100,000. I might be overpricing myself here, Kate. I'm not too sure. And then also the recruitment email address as well. So we'll just put.
And it's worth pointing out the hide salary there. Just explain what that means, because it doesn't default on. And some people, you've got 800,000.
Oh, whoopsies. Jeez, sorry about that.
Yeah, you definitely priced yourself out.
Definitely priced myself. So hide salary. So what this does is some job boards require a salary to be collected, but you don't actually have to display it. So they just want to see that it's like a real job listing, for example. On some types of jobs, we might be able to kind of provide a benchmark to you. So we've also got a benchmark tool within our recruitment product. So we can kind of give you a benchmark range for what a role actually would be worth and how much the average salary is. And that sits within recruitment settings. But if you do want to display the salary, you can display that on job listings. And Kate, maybe I'll throw it to you quickly. How popular is that? Like, are we seeing, a trend across kind of Australia where people are starting to display kind of salaries? We know across Europe and America, it's a bit more popular, but what have you seen across the market in Australia?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I would say the majority of companies still hide salary when they're advertising. There's been a bit of a push in certain industries to start being more open and have those salary bandings made visible. But I think at the moment in Australia, it's more common practice to keep it hidden. If you're kind of either a candidate or an employer and you're looking at how much should we pay and how can I make sure that I'm negotiating effectively, whether it's visible or not, yeah, would highly recommend that you look at things like our SmartMatch salary benchmarking that will give you a really honest idea of how much you're worth as a job seeker or how much you should be paying as an employer.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to jump in and answer a question. The
Sure.
reason why some of these fields are mandatory isn't necessarily, the question is, can we take these things out as mandatory? The reason is because sometimes they're required to push to the job board, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So every job board requires at least this data of information that we're capturing here. We don't want to make it complicated where we say, oh, for this job board, please enter this. So it's like, this is the standard information. It's also the kind of level of information a candidate expects to see these days about a job.
Actually, there is an option at the very end where if you've selected a job board and there is optional information, you can add that in at the end, but I'm getting it. So then you create the job just like that.
Yes, then we go create the job. Well, I forgot to select the industry. My apologies. So let's go select an industry here. Let's say it's going to be within sales. And once we've created the job, I think what's going to be really exciting to walk everybody through is the stuff we set up before in recruitment settings, you can then set up here. So like the screening questions. We might want to select, for example, the detailed screening questions template. We allow you to preview it as well in case there's any changes that you want to make. And it also gives your team the ability to have that kind of core structure for screening, but in case you want to change it on a job-by-job basis. We could then kind of go through to the next part of the process as well to click save. This will take us through the hiring process. So you can see, for example, the default hiring process that we just selected. We allow you to kind of change this as well. And then we're going to take you through to your team members. I saw a question before somebody asked about how do we kind of add in our team members. This is a really great point. So there's two ways that you can add in team members within a job within Employment Hero. The one could be somebody as a hiring manager. And this could mean that they have actual full visibility to the job, and you can select them directly from your list of orgs. So we can see Arnold Schwarzenegger, fantastic employee of ours. You could select him, for example, and he'd be the hiring manager on this job. It also gives that person who's been added as a hiring manager visibility to the entire job, where they can interact with candidates, for example, and see everything. We have another section I'll show you shortly where you can add a person or a member of your team to a specific hiring stage to only see the 3 candidates that are in the final interview stage. So those are the 2 ways that you can kind of collaborate with your team as well. Next, we'll go through to find candidates, and this is called SmartMatch. So I'm not sure if you joined our demo earlier in the week, but SmartMatch is an integrated sourcing tool powered by Employment Hero. We allow you to connect to about 1 million candidates in Australia. And what this means is, as part of your kind of create a job process, we can help potentially find a matched candidate to you faster than conventional recruitment channels. And what this looks like is, say we've selected, for example, Swag as our default one. You can obviously select additional job boards as we touched on before. But when you go through to kind of like the next process, SmartMatch will start to automatically look for talent that could be within your field. And will then also allow you to filter, rank, and change a number of different candidates. So we can see here we found 167 already from the Swag SmartMatch talent pool. You can see the criteria that I've looked for, BDM, for example, within Sydney. And then you can also see the criteria list. And we're going to give you like a live list of candidates available below. And what's really exciting about this is you can refine the list criteria. So based on that job description, if, for example, that you think actually CRM software might need to be slightly higher on my important list, we'll start to then re-rank and prioritize candidates below based on this type of feedback as well. So you can see we've just had a live example. These candidates here as well, you can see their active date, you can view their profiles, you can add them to the job. And the power of what SmartMatch is going to do is, based on the job we've selected, called a business development rep, we will go and look for the top 15 candidates that are a good fit for this role. We will check to see if they might be interested in this role by sending them out the job description, and then we will surface them back within Employment Hero as well. Dutch, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to quickly add on this before I jump on.
I can't remember. I think there was, but I can't remember it. Just keep going. I've got 3 questions about the ATS process at the end.
Okay, we're going to jump into that straight away.
Yeah.
After this. So next step, you click basically continue. You can choose here, for example, if you want to publish the job onto your demo careers page, or if it's only for employees, then you can kind of just toggle a little switch and only employees would be able to see that as well. And that's through the kind of the Swag app as well. So the job board's been sent off to be posted, which is excited. We're going to jump into an actual job now, a job that's been set up already.
I'll just jump in with these couple of questions. They're all of the same vein about editing, a couple of specific ones. So in general, once I've posted the ad, depending on which job board, it can take from a few minutes to a few hours to appear. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So it can be a few minutes. Generally, they're a few hours because they have kind of like a fraud prevention service, most job boards, where it kind of just goes and gets reviewed either by a person or it gets through an automated service. So I'd usually allow up to a few hours before your job board is your job is live on a job board.
And so then in terms of editing, in general, you can come back in and jump into that process that we just saw, make changes. And as long as you get to the end and press, I think it's save and update, or you have to press send again. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's right. So anything that we kind of have live within the actual ATS, you can click on edit job. You can edit any of the actual information that you've selected, for example, across like the job details. And you just have to make sure you click kind of save and continue so it updates. And that'll be real time.
And get right to the end. You have to, that's the important bit. You actually have to get to the end and repost it, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah. So if you want to make any updates to the job boards, then you have to click update job posts as well. And you can update the actual job board posts as well.
Okay. I'm just conscious of time. Can I change the logos on that as part of the edit process? If I've chosen a company logo or whatever, you can change the artwork.
I mean, generally that would be stored from your recruitment settings.
Yeah.
Within the ATS as well.
Maybe it's possible to have multiple. So let's not dwell too long on that. Last one is, if I've posted a job to a job board already outside of the ATS, can I link that back?
I think it just depends on what job board that you are connected to. So I definitely would say probably like reach out to that job board just to check, because usually when you post a job, you're using like a job slot. So if you have like a contract with Seek, you're using a posting. So you probably just want to have to check with Seek to say, hey, can we actually not, reuse posting through our ATS, and definitely check with them.
I think the easier answer is start posting through the ATS to see
Correct.
in advance, and then that'll
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So now we're going to jump into recruitment itself. We've seen, for example, how we set up a job. Now we're going to look at how we manage candidates during the actual recruitment effort. So for this role, we're going to see a job title called truck driver. Just generally, this dashboard gives you access to quickly seeing the new candidates that you have, the total candidates for this role. Something new we brought out in the last few months is location. We know that's really important for a lot of our customers. So you can kind of we have a location column. It also allows you to start to filter based off the types of locations that you've set up within your company settings. If you want to see who created the job as well, you can kind of click on the 3 dots. You can click on, for example, job overview, and you'll also see, for example, Ryan Reynolds obviously created this one. So just in terms of from an admin perspective, you might want to understand who set it up. That's a quick little hack to get access to that. When we jump into the ATS, we've had a bit of a visual update that we rolled out probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago now to make the process a bit more easier to understand what's happening. The kind of key things to look at is this is the hiring process we've set up. We've got, for example, the new candidates that have come through. They're always going to be sorted in this list. And we have, for example, SmartMatch candidates that sometimes get surfaced higher up. And SmartMatch candidates are ones that, for example, we've found through the SmartMatch talent pool. We've checked to see, for example, if they're interested in the job. And the way you would treat them is if they're actually a regular applicant through a job board channel, we're just flagging to you they're from SmartMatch and they're also interested in your role. So if that's what if you're wondering what these 2 tags are as well. Within the ATS as well here, what's really important is when you're reviewing an application, generally you'll click on, for example, the job of the candidate that's come through. You'll be able to see their profile. You can see if it's a SmartMatch candidate, how they've matched to the opportunity. So they'll see a score. You'll be able to see, for example, if they've answered any of your screening questions, what their level of experience is, their skills, what their qualifications are. If they have, for example, like a raw CV, you'll be able to access their raw CV potentially, or any docs they've uploaded. If we scroll down, we'll also be able to see any summary information about that candidate that they provided, for example, as well. And if you want to move a candidate and kind of take that next step, so say we like the look of this candidate, you can actually click, move to, and you can just choose any of your recruitment stages that you've got set up. you can move the candidate across to like an in review stage. And if we jump into in review, we can see, for example, here's myself, an applicant applying a little bit earlier today. I did come through our careers page, just to let you know, for this job opportunity. And in my profile, when I applied through the careers page, a new feature that we brought out for people applying through careers pages is to have a bit of an introduction video. So that's a nice little feature, just to kind of humanize, give that kind of personality of the candidate that's come across. And candidates that can upload literally a 30-second introduction video about themselves when they apply through your careers page.
Great shirt, by the way, Guy. Love that shirt.
Same one. In here as well, I think like a couple of key things that are really important to notice. So we've got a number of different tabs that are across here. So when I applied for that job, I did fill out screening answers. These are the two ones that I can see. So am I eligible to work in Australia, and what's my salary expectation? On top of that as well, we've also got a communication tab, and this is, for example, if you're starting to engage and reach out to that candidate. There's a few ways that you can kind of engage and reach out to candidates. The one way that we see that's kind of really popular is just dropping a quick message to the candidate. You can also choose to use, again, our AI-powered enhancing tool if you want to, and that allows you to, automate to kind of change that message and make it a bit more professional as well. On top of that as well, if the candidate's in review and you want to kind of send them like an actual regular email, you can click contact, you can click send email, you can connect your inbox. So I've selected to connect it from our employment hero email address. We have a number of templates that you can choose, for example. So it could be maybe I've been disqualified. And I saw somebody ask, can you preview the email? So yes, you can preview the email. Just to let you know, this is what the email does look like. And you can also change this as well, which is
Guy, there was
really
also
important.
a question about whether you can bulk email somebody, for example, or I think rather than bulk email, I think it would be like an auto disqualification email. So is that possible?
Yeah, so I'll just touch on the one point from a bulk actions perspective. If we have these two candidates here, we can do a few things. For example, we could choose, if we want to, send bulk emails, and we can choose the actual template, just to let you know.
And you can select all the candidates in one go.
Select all the candidates, especially in that stage.
So a use case might be, I've been through all my new, I've moved the people I want to review into the next stage. Everyone
Correct.
that's left is a disqualification. I can select all and bulk action them.
Correct. Exactly right. A few other aspects that you can do as well, you can move the candidate to a hiring stage. So you might want to choose to move these candidates to the disqualified stage. If we click continue, you can choose the disqualification reason. We touched on that a bit earlier. So it could be maybe they lack the skills. Once I click confirm, we'll be able to move those candidates across into that disqualification stage as well. If we take,
and that's available for all candidates, irrespective of where they've come through, right?
Correct.
So
correct.
just again, because a few people have asked this question, the way I would see this working in practice is I go in every day. I might have had 20 new applicants. I review them all. Kate, I'm going to move them into the next stage for review. That you do that individually because that's the selection process. Everyone that's left, I'm going to disqualify. I can click the button, select all, and send them the email via the
Correct.
template.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Same when you filled a position as well, by the way. Super quick to then go back to every other candidate that's in the mix and just send them a bulk email, say, hey, I'm really sorry, we've actually just filled this role.
Thank you for participating. Terrific. Guy.
Yeah. A couple other things that I think are really important to kind of just touch base on. So when we're actually starting to email a candidate as well, I touched on before, for example, that you can select templating, but there's also a way that you can start to schedule interviews with candidates. And there's two ways that you can do this. One is you could integrate Calendly, which is a booking scheduling tool. This gives the candidate the availability to receive an email. And I can show you, for example, what it might look like. Calendly is like a third-party service that you can connect. You can set up, for example, your calendar. It's synchronized with my Google Workspace calendar. I can set up the types of events that I'm going to do. So I'm only available for a 30-minute meeting or kind of phone interview at the moment. And it'll check my calendar live to see if there are any available slots. So in this email that I send out to the candidate, I could be like, thank you for your application, or great to chat with you as discussed. Please feel free to book yourself in for an interview. And it kind of just gives the power to that candidate to literally select from available slots in my calendar, and you can send that email. The other way that you can do this as well is you could schedule an event. So say, for example, that you've spoken to a candidate already, and you have the idea that you want to go schedule a potential event with them. You can go click schedule an event and actually send a calendar invite to that potential candidate, and then they'll be able to kind of receive a message from you as well. Another thing that's really important to touch on, which I think a lot of people kind of overlook with employment here and didn't realize that it's included, is we have reference checking available for kind of our platinum customers. And it's automated and it's built into the product. And what it means is on any candidate here, like Rod Gearshift, if you scroll down and you click on like reference checking, there'll be a thing that says let's go. And it asks you to literally set up the verification process. We'll automatically email out the candidate, ask them who their referees are, and then you'll be able to kind of come back and reach out to those referees. When I click on view, I can see, for example, one of our team members here, we've conducted the verification process. I can then click on view, and I can see, for example, like what was the questions that we asked to that referee. And also, what was the general sentiment of that? So it was a positive reference check. Kate, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add about reference checking, but I know this is like really important. It also means you don't have to use any other third-party products. It's literally built in if you have access to this feature already.
Yeah, definitely recommend it for any role that you are hiring for. Always like to believe the best, and I think everyone does, but it's just good to check these things. And particularly, for example, yeah, let's say, I don't know, you're running a childcare facility or something, things like reference checks can be really, really important, both personal and professional.
Guy, thank you, Kate. I'm going to have to jump in because we are out of time. But
no problem.
Just had notification from the team, and I have some very good news for the people on this call. So I'll tell you about that in a minute. In the meantime, I just want to mention one other thing, and that is this year we launched the Employment Hero Foundation, or the Hero Foundation, and the relevance to recruitment is this. The purpose, Employment Hero, we aim to be the biggest platform on the world for managing people. And we think that opportunity that comes with that ability to bring people and link people to work and to jobs and to careers, we can use that to help the millions, billions of people around the planet who have disadvantages in accessing work. That might be because they're re-entering the workforce after an injury. It might be because they have health issues or chronic health issues. It might be because they're parents who are now trying to re-enter the workforce. So we think this is a really important responsibility that we have, and we'd like to share that with our clients. It's also a great opportunity because there is a huge part of the workforce around the world and in Australia that is overlooked, and there is some great talent for people from difficult or challenged, disadvantaged backgrounds. So that you will start to see more announcements about that. Those candidates will start to appear in search results. They will be identified. We're looking for customers to join us on this journey to make a positive difference through hiring through the Hero Foundation. You will start to see candidates there. You'll be able to engage with those candidates. But if you're interested in finding out more about the Hero Foundation and partnering with the Hero Foundation, we'd love you to get in touch. The follow-up email will include details on the Hero Foundation. We're currently partnering with a number of Australian charities like Humans for Purpose Academy, Generation Australia, Fortrum Australia. Some of the early candidates are typically going to be from backgrounds where they have had work careers in the past, and due to some element of interruption in their life, they have had difficulty re-entering the workforce. So please keep an eye out for that. Also exciting in the follow-up email I've just been told is that if you've signed up to this demo, there will be in the follow-up email a link to book in with one of our recruitment module specialists to help you set up. So if you haven't been able to set up, or if you've got specific questions, there's now over 80 questions unanswered in the Q&A. We will try and answer some of those questions in the email, but for everyone that signed up to this webinar, there'll be a link to book in with a recruitment module specialist. They will help you get set up, and they may be able to also answer some of those questions about customization of templates, how the templates and screening questions link into Seek, for example. I've seen that question a few times. So keep an eye out for that. But Guy, I get the feeling, I don't know if you've disappeared, but we could have gone on for another hour. But thank you very much for that.
No problem.
In touch with you via LinkedIn. And
Yes.
Kate, as usual, everyone always raves about it when you appear. Your knowledge about recruitment and talent acquisition is unrivaled. We always appreciate your input. So thanks for joining us today. Did you want to say
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Our pleasure, and great questions for everybody today. I think we'll try and get back to everybody ASAP with some answers as well. So
Yeah, and
great
also
questions.
we based on the last 3 modules where we've just had overwhelming support for these how-to demos, we are looking at in the new year launching a series of just how-to demos. They'll just be live demos with a focus. It might be OKRs, it might be one-to-ones, performance reviews. We'll have someone like a subject matter expert like Guy, probably even better than Guy, there to demo. There'll be people there to help you with live Q&A, and you can get your questions answered. So we're looking at introducing that based on the feedback in the new year. For today then, that's it. Thank you very much all for joining us as usual. Keep an eye out for the follow-up email. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in a future series. Bye for now.
Cheers.